How would you quantify Drake's first 2 weeks of camp compared to what you were hoping to see?
About what I expected. Really excited about how he's matured. Just so much operationally that you take for granted, and you just see the growth and the development that he's had. I just think it's really fun to see him operate at the line of scrimmage now, with having the 13 games under his belt, the full year, leading the organization with Coach Fleck, and I think it's just really encouraging to see. We installed so many different cadences, so many different things in day one, and he was doing it all summer, and so you just see that operation, and then the poise, how he's operated, and pocket movement, things that we looked at from last season that we have to improve on, and we have to develop with him. He's really grown.
Listen to your feet is kind of a mantra that the McVay and Shanahan offenses have developed. How do you kind of instill that mindset in Drake within your system? Because there's kind of some similarities there.
Yeah, we try to tie every single drop back pass. We try to tie with his feet to the pass concept, and I think that is a big thing. Because you work to train the mind first and foremost of the quarterback to be able to see the picture correctly. And I think that's one thing that we've done a really good job of as an offensive staff, is developing the same picture over and over again, but giving a different pre-snap look. And then he's really mastered that. He mastered that throughout the summer. He mastered that, he's really started to master that throughout training camp. But then now he's really tying his feet with every single thing that we're doing. And I really love how the pass game has started to develop. It's gone about exactly how I thought it would go when I look back to the process in January of the spring being such a mindset of an identity and how are we going to run the football. And then in the summertime, really honing in on those pass concepts, okay, evaluating the spring, looking at what did we execute well, what was something that we didn't do well, and let's throw it out. How can we make the same picture look the same as? That's what I always say to Drake and the quarterbacks, is like, we want to create the same as picture in every single situation. And it's a credit to the wideouts, the tight ends, the running backs, and the quarterbacks of the work that they put in the summertime, which is now you get out there and you hope that throughout the first however many practices we've gone through, you hope that there's not a ton of busts, MAs, mistakes, and it goes from there. And then you can coach the technique to go back to your question of tying every single route with Drake's timing and his feet.
So DJ Shipp in the juice jersey, what have you seen from him as he battles right tackle, and how far has he even come since January?
It's a process with every single player in the program, and Coach Fleck says it all the time, we're a developmental program, and he embodies that right now. And his maturation and growth has been really encouraging, because you saw in the spring, and it's funny, Callie and I talk about this all the time, of every old lineman, they go through a process of they come in and they have to develop as just a football player, weight room, nutrition, everything like that. And then they go into a situation where he gets put in a position where, okay, he's going to compete for a spot. And you see in the spring, he's thinking a lot, he's going through it. You don't see the true physical nature of him until the brain starts to slow down. And that's what you're starting to see right now with him, is his mind is starting to slow down. He's recognizing what's happening pre-snap, and then being able to transition post-snap and play with great technique with his first two steps, his pad level, his eyes, all that. And you can't truly evaluate a player until the mind starts to slow down. Same thing with quarterback, wideout, running back. They have to be able to trust their progressions and all that. And now that's what you're really starting to see with DJ is that piece. And I'm really encouraged by him and Ben. And I think it's both of them. You've seen huge steps of growth in that category of the mind is slowing down. They're able to play physical. They're able to play fast.
Greg, besides Drake, who else has been getting a lot of reps in practice among the quarterbacks?
Among the quarterbacks, Max and Jansky's been getting a ton of reps. They've all been repping, and they've all been getting opportunities, and we talk about all the time in the quarterback room of we use just different quarterbacks that we've heard stories of in the NFL of like when they first started out, you might get 2, 3, 4 reps of practice, and you have to make sure you take advantage of all those reps that you get. If you get 2 reps, you make sure that those 2 reps are the best reps you've ever had. And you know, it doesn't matter if it's Drake Lindsay who gets 50 plus potentially in a practice, and then all of a sudden down to, you know, one of the true freshmen that are battling to get developed, you know, and earning the right to get developed. And I think that's really the culture in the quarterback room that we want to establish.
What have you seen from the tight end room so far, and what are you hoping to learn this Saturday in the scrimmage?
Man, it's different. Every year is different. Every personnel, every single thing you look at from a personnel standpoint is different. And this year's tight end group is really cool because you look at Pierce Walsh, Caden Helms, Jacob Simpson, Julian Johnson, all the way down to the young guys that are in the room. And they all have different skill sets, and you have to utilize that skill set and figure out what jobs they can do. Eric's done a fantastic job of just developing the mindset in that room of the number one thing that they want to start is be physical. You know, that standard was set long ago, and they want to be physical, and they want to have that mentality. And I think that it's really good. You saw today a couple plays made by a few of the tight ends, and we love for them to be able to do that and utilize their skill sets accordingly.
What are the details that you're trying to figure out and how to improve the run game?
Sure. It's just keep getting better daily. We've established an identity, and that's the thing that I think the guys understand. It's a physical mindset. It's always been physical with Coach Fleck, you know. But I think that we really wanted to focus on that. When we turn on the tape, day in and day out, week in and week out, for 12 games, the number one thing that we want to see is our guys up front playing physical and playing with the how. And if we see that, the technique will take care of itself. That's our job to coach the technique. And it's their job to be able to work on the unrequired, continue to get better in practice, and trust what they see and trust their progressions and play fast.
Why is TJ Thomas a key part of your running back?
He's versatile. You know, it's how you know, Darius is too. You know, Darius is really developed as a true leader and a true running back, and then it kind of just trickles down. You know, and then you look at TJ, and TJ is really, really cool because he has such a positive attitude. He has such a great mindset, and he's super twitchy, super athletic, has elite hands, and the thing that goes unnoticed with him, not by me, is that he's super, super smart. And so like you can put a lot on these guys. And Mo, it's funny because Mo will come into our meetings, and it's one of those things with the running backs right now. He don't know what he's gonna get daily. And it's like, all right, we're gonna line him up here, we're gonna line him up in the backfield, we're gonna put him here, we're gonna put him there, we're gonna motion him around. Look, it's pretty cool to be able to utilize all those guys and have different personnel groupings that we can attack a defense and keep the picture the same as for the quarterback.
Curious, just zooming out a little bit, off the quick glance, the overall football staff is about doubled
Yeah.
the number from 2021 to now. For
Yeah.
you, how has that changed what you're allowed to do? How do you think that's impacted just the success for the offense?
That's a great question. I think number one, it's allowed me to really grow, especially just offensively. It's allowed me to grow as a leader, and how do I utilize all the skill sets not only that we have on the field with players, but then just to your question of how do you utilize the skill sets in the room? And it goes down like all the position coaches, that you know how important they are to me. But secondly, like you go with Keegan O'Hara, Nick Foss, Brian Sheehan, Mike Shula, Matt Limegrover, all those guys in the room that are so critical to the success of the organization offensively. And I told the staff, I think it was last week, I want opinions. And I want people to have jobs, and I want people to do that job at a very high level and make the organization better. I don't care where the idea comes from, and I think that's what I've learned over the years from some really good coaches, specifically Coach Fleck. He gives people jobs, and they better do them at a high level. And I think that that's what's trickled down, and it's just everybody knows their role within the staff. When the staff has great synergy, that is the number one thing, and it trickles into the players, and the players have great synergy. Coach says that all the time. We have to be a connected staff, and I love how each key person in the room has their role, and they do it at a very high level.
Do one or two more for Greg?
PJ talked about Drake working through his full progression and staying in the pocket. How would you kind of describe how often he's been able to do that more this camp?
Really a lot. I think it's been a thing that we wanted to work on dating back to last season. Regardless of the situation, whether it's a normal down situation, first and second down, or it's third down, it just depends on the pressure package they're bringing. You know, if you're getting a different, multiplicity of looks on third down, your pocket presence has to be, your pocket movement has to be at a premium. You have to be able to feel different things. Whereas on first and second down, you might just be getting a single from the field, slide the protection, everything is cool. And I think that it's different based off of each situation. We've worked on it a ton. Even back to spring ball, Coach Shula and Keegan were constantly moving him. We saw him today in individual drills. We're constantly moving him in the pocket because that's where he has to live. We want to make sure he understands that every single pocket, he has to be under the assumption that it's going to be a dirty pocket. And if he can live in a dirty pocket, keep his fundamentals, keep his execution at a high level, he'll be really successful.
Is
What
there,
have you noticed from
Hey, Daniel, go ahead, last one.
what have you noticed from the receiver room, just as some of the younger guys have
Mhm.
acclimated into the system?
Man, Coach Fricke's done a fantastic job culture-wise. It starts with Coach Fleck in that room, obviously, with him having such a passion for that position, and it trickles down to Coach Fricke, Coach Foss. They do a fantastic job of getting those guys ready to practice, number one, because I think the way we're going to use them, it's going to vary each year. And we always say in the skill room, like, you're auditioning for touches every single day, and we're attempting to figure out what skill sets every single player is using, what job that they can do. I love the growth of that room. Outside of the obvious of catching the football in the run game, they have really, really improved. The physical mindset that comes from Coach Fleck, that comes from Isaac. We joke around with Isaac all the time. When he was a player, he was a heck of a blocker. And he always jokes around about that. He took a ton of pride in it. You can see it with how his guys play and what they're attempting to do and how we're moving them. I think it's really fun to see.
One of the big talking points with the defense coming into this year is we graduated 1,400 defensive tackle snaps. You've now got 10 practices or so underneath the belt. What have you learned about that room? Who's standing up?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. There's still opportunity there. Guys like Riley Sunrum, Crowder, who we brought in, are really doing an awesome job. You have Theo there, making plays, playing with Ultimate How. Zion, Hicks, when he's out there, he's making plays. So it's been great competition. The big thing here that Coach always talks about is compete with. That's what those guys are doing, and they're doing an awesome job at that.
Danny, just looking at your schedule this year, you're going to see a lot of running quarterbacks, a lot of RPO-driven offenses. So how do you go about training camp, getting those scouted looks, maybe when your offensive style is a little bit different than yours?
Yeah, we always say as a defensive staff, start with the end in mind, right? So we've studied a lot of these teams already in the summer, kind of have a great understanding of what we're probably going to call in those games. Even though that might not be the best call against our offense, we're doing that right now to kind of get them in that mindset of, hey, this can happen. That's why even today, like in 7-on-7, I love 7-on-7 because at the end of the day, it's really a disadvantage for the defense, right? There's no pass rush, there's none of that. Some of those plays are playing like a scramble, like a second play, making sure that we plaster downfield. So we're starting with the end in mind. We've already showed clips, to our guys of those quarterbacks. It should be a great challenge for us.
Reporters have only seen 2 practices. There haven't been a lot of plays from the secondary as far as playmaking goes. Who have been those guys that we haven't seen in those other practices that have been most disruptive around the ball?
Yeah, Kerry Brown, is a guy that's always around the football. He's made a lot of plays this camp, always doing his job. Guys like Mekhi Smith that you saw today, make that great interception. I haven't seen a play like that since Tyler Newbin, on one of those nakeds. Zach Harden has been taking his game to the next level. Guys on the outside, you got Nestor and Aiden West and Naeem and Mike Gerald. I mean, those guys are around the football. It's been pretty fun to see.
You've got a lot of guys in that safety rotation right now. Can you just speak to how important the versatility is for this year's defense?
Yeah, it's coaches hitting on it too again this year of like, you got to understand the situation, right? That's not just players, that's coaches, right? So, run situations, we may have different safeties in there than purely pass situations. third down, we're moving guys around to get them in their best position possible. You know, if I'm a safety and I'm a great vision and break guy, I'm not going to have you in the run fit, right? I'm going to have you vision and break. So we got to do a great job at continuing to rotate those guys. You saw that today. Those guys can master all those positions, and it's fun to see a guy like Garrison Monroe, who's been in the program a long time. He's so versatile because he can play nickel, he can play strong, he can play free. He can play Mike and dime, you know, on our third down. So it's been fun to move those pieces around.
What have you learned about Aiden H and Howie Johnson since fall camp has started?
Yeah, relentless motors, play every play like it's their last. You know, they're freshmen, so, you know, sometimes they might not know exactly what to do, but again, it's how you do it. And to see them get off the football, play with ultimate how, they're great teammates, great people. They want to be great, which I think is, you know, a huge quality to have there. So it's been fun to watch those freshmen.
What's impressed you by TJ Bush?
Yeah, motor again, another how guy. He's edgy, you know, brings that edginess to the defense. You know, we talk about, you know, towing that line, you know, but not truly crossing it. He toes the line, and it's fun because he creates that spark for the defense. You know, the other day starts it off in our tackling drill, and, you know, makes a great play, a huge play, and it just, that stuff fuels defense. And as much as we can have that, you know, we'll be dangerous there.
Zooming out a little bit, I think it was about 3 years ago that PJ kind of sounded the alarm, like, hey, if things don't change now, we're going to continue to lose players to other programs. I'm curious, just, I mean, Smith, an example, but how have you seen just the ability of the team to retain players change over the past 3 years, speaking specifically for the defense, and how's that impacted what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we pride ourselves on being a developmental program, right? We recruit, we develop, we retain at the end of the day, and that's why, again, even on this defense, you have guys like Anthony Smith that have been here 5 years, Maverick, Kerry Brown in the system. Just those guys go within our system, they learn, they continue to get better, they're playing good on good competition, and then they're able to, you know, have their shine in the game and in the season. So just continuing to trust that process, trust what we're talking about, not only just coaching, but as a culture and a program that Coach Fleck has set here has been huge, and they trust it, they see it, and then they get in the program and they develop.
Are there more things you can put on Maverick's plate now that he has the experience as the green dot?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that defensively we'll adapt, you know, every single year depending on what we saw last year, what we know we're going to see this year, right? So again, you know, him being in the system, you can put a lot on him, but it goes back to that. If there's so much in the defense, then, you know, sometimes players are going to play slow, and I don't want that. I want this defense to play extremely fast. I want Maverick to know exactly what we're in, exactly what we're doing. Hey, they come out in this, we're doing this, and bam, we're rolling. And that's the challenge for him, and he's done a great job of that so far.
The other spot alongside Matt, we saw Gerlach in the juice jersey today. You got Kings and Carmel and some other names there. How would you characterize where that spot is at?
Yeah, I mean, it's an open competition right now. You know, I love the way Joey Gerlach's playing. You know, it's cool because when you come from injury like that and football's taken away from you, you can really see the guys that really love football when they come back, how hard they play, you know, when something's taken away from you, and you can see that with Joe. That's why he's in the orange jersey. I mean, he's bringing it every single day. You saw it playing the sideline. We're short numbers-wise, and he kills the play, but with his block destruction and his how, he's a guy that can kind of do everything, first, second down, but then third down, move him around. You got a guy like Kingsbury that's just a powerful, old school linebacker that, you know, is the DNA of this linebacker core in this defense. And guys like Carmo that, again, are versatile, where you can kind of put them around situationally, especially on third down, move them around. Those guys have been doing an awesome job in terms of the competition there.
We've seen some of your sub packages for what looks like third and long with the amount of pass rushers you have on the field. How do you kind of look at the different variables and people you can put out there that do it?
Yeah, it's fun. We have a lot of people that can get after the quarterback, right? So my job is to put them in those positions where those best fit, and then also, you know, create different pictures for the quarterback, right? So we may be in our dime package or our peso package or whatever the package is called. We can get to 12 different fronts within that, and that's a big part of these walkthroughs and training camp is, hey, we get the dime team out there and we go through all of our fronts. Same people stay in there, and we're rapid fire, calling the front, calling the play, and we're playing. Again, just getting them familiar. We're not gonna have 12 fronts in a game, but may have 3 or 4. Again, getting those guys in the right spots so that we can get after the quarterback would be huge for us.
With the scrimmage coming up on Saturday, what areas of your defense do you feel like we need to learn the most about that day?
Yep, I still always think, tackling is obviously, to be an elite defense, you have to tackle. Thought we tackled great, in the last scrimmage, but again, it's not about what you did then, it's about what you do now, right? So continuing to have that consistency in tackling, our eyes and coverage, need to be really good, especially you guys talked about those quarterbacks that we're gonna play. The second play is gonna be huge. So making sure our eyes are correct in coverage, and then, getting after the quarterback in those pass situations, and then ultimately stopping the run will be a huge emphasis in that scrimmage.
Danny, is there something that you kind of take away in terms of schemes, set personnel for those games last year that got away from you that were in the 40s, Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in anything, in any profession, right, you have to, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at yourself, right? And what did I do as a coach, and what position did I put them in, right? And that's the first thing you do, right? So then you spend all that time in the off season, in the summer, reflecting, right? And a lot of the time in the summer for me, it's building the plan for, hey, they come out in this, here's our menu. They come out in this, here's our menu. To be proactive, sometimes, where we would go into a game, they weren't showing something, and then all of a sudden, that's the flavor of the game, right? And you have to adapt. We're building again with the end in mind now, understanding that, learning from the past to create our future. That's been huge for me. Relying on our D staff that's super intelligent. Because again, it's not just me, right? It's our D staff, it's our defense. We're all in this thing together. I told the players the other day, it's not like it's not player coach. Like, we're all teammates, right? We're all teammates. We're all doing this thing together. Our job is to get better every single day, and we've put a real emphasis on that to create our future by learning from our past.
On the note of that staff, just quick glance, football staff here since 2021 is about double in size. What's that allowed for you to do from a standpoint of scouting, analytics, things like that, when, in the off season you're looking to develop that menu, reflect, prepare?
Yeah, it's great for efficiency, right? Because it used to be you have this many staff members and you have so many different things to do, right? Well, now we're adding the staff members, and again, we're creating efficiency, so now we can get to the next thing. We can get to scouting future quarterbacks. We can get to, hey, what are we going to play, on 3rd and long versus Mississippi State? We can get to that stuff a lot faster because of the efficiency. And then again, those guys have done it other places, so that provides us with different ideas and things that fit our system. If it fits our system, we're gonna, attempt it and go out and see how it looks. If it doesn't fit our system, we're not gonna do it, right? But those guys, have great ideas and bring great ideas there that we can experiment with, and some of those things that will, help us in 2026.
Danny, just looking at college football, the amount of personnel diversity, teams are trying to get creative with how they use their personnel. So how does that affect the type of personnel that you want defensively to kind of have the tools in the toolbox to match up to anything you might see, because the variety is pretty big in the Big Ten?
Yeah, just kind of like we've been talking about safeties, this is, probably the second year now in a row we've had that versatile safety room that they can play against bigger bodies, right, and against speed. You have to have as much as that, on your personnel and defense. Same thing with the D-line. You have to have big run stoppers, but then you have to have athletic guys that can get after scrambling quarterbacks, that can get on perimeter run, teams that space you out, linebackers that aren't just box guys, right? That are guys that can play in space, play off the edge. So it's huge. We adapt, based upon what we're seeing, and in order to do that, you have to have a really versatile defense.
Kicker position on Saturday is big for that competition. How do you kind of look at where things are at right now?
Yeah, I think every day is big for that, not just Saturday. But no, our guys are out there competing their tails off. Competition breeds excellence, and those guys are out there competing every single day. Very happy with where they're at today. Got a long way to go. We're always looking to be better the next one. So happy with where they're at. A lot of room for growth.
You've done this a long time, so in your mind, what quantifies a successful place kicking game for you?
That's a great question. Obviously, every time we have the opportunity to go out on the field, the darn thing goes through the uprights. I mean, that's the goal, right? So I've been fortunate to be a part of that in my past, but the past is the past. So when we went out there today, our job was to have a perfect snap, because it's a 3-pronged deal now. You got a snapper, a holder, and a kicker. And the statistics go through the roof when you have a perfect snap and a perfect hold. When you can look at the statistics of of the result, right, which is the data, when you can look at that and see, well, there was something wrong with the snap or something wrong with the hold, the percentages go down. So it's all three of them have to do their job. No matter what happens with the snap and the hold, the kicker's responsibility is to get the ball through the uprights. Everybody's job is to do their job, but I mean, my mindset would be whatever we're called to do. There's only one thing in our room that we're guaranteed every single game. It's one kickoff. Now, there's going to be other things that come out throughout the course of the game, but there is no script for that. We got to be prepared to do whatever we're asked to do. So, yeah, I mean, every time we're asked to call to go out there, whatever the situation may be, it's our job to tackle.
Can you share with us a little bit, Coach, as far as the return game? What has been the key to success, or what do you see as key to success in the return game, besides obviously good players and blocking? But how would you take that a little further?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself, I think, is the biggest thing. That is, the return game isn't an area where, which we don't do. We don't try in this program. It's not. We're not like attempting to make the play, right? We're not attempting to. We have to be in the right place, right time, all the time. We don't control the kick. We don't control the punt. We don't control either of those. So our main objective is the ball. The ball's the program. We need to get the ball to our offense to let them go be successful. Now, doing that on a PAT is a great way to do it. Don't get me wrong, and I've talked about that, right? If we score on special teams, that makes the offense's job really easy. But I believe in what we're training our players to understand is that you have to be in the right place, right time, all the time. We might be in a situation on punt return where we're pointing every time because the ball was shanked or it wasn't kicked well, or we're waving fair catch multiple times and not getting a return. And that needs to be that way because we're not in control of that. So we're going to worry about what we can control, but when the opportunity presents itself, it's our job to be in position to take advantage of it.
What are the traits you look for in a punt returner versus a kick returner? How are they similar? How are they different? And then we haven't seen a lot of who you've got back there at kick and punt return. So who are some of the names that are standing out to you so far?
Yeah, two things to respond to that. One, I'll let Coach handle the names of who's going to be where. But as far as the difference, right? I mean, most important thing is speed, right? When you got speed back there, all of a sudden you can get loose, good things can happen. Kick returner, I think the biggest thing to understand is that when you're catching the ball as a kick returner, the other guys are really, really far away. And then it's up to the other 10 on the field to get the track and get you going. Once you hit it, we're gone. From a punt returner standpoint, it's totally different because there's people all around you. So there's a completely different mindset in how you catch it in those two areas. And the thing I would say is that there is a big difference. There's a lot of kids you can talk to and be like, yeah, Coach, hey, do you return? Yeah, I love kick return. It's like, all right, not my punt returner because it's a different mindset. But we've got some skill. We've got some skill on both sides of the ball that I'm very happy with right now with the guys that we have back there, and we'll see how it all shakes out as we get closer to game one.
The punt formation rule change is a big one.
Yeah.
Do you feel like everyone's going to have a little bit of a different approach to it, and just how much time have you been in the lab thinking about how you're going to handle it?
A lot, because I think we get to look at it from both sides, right? So the first thing is from the punt perspective, but then you also we got to defend it too. I think we'll learn a lot in the first couple weeks of the season. I think we will. Obviously, we talk to our colleagues and see and kind of learn some things of what other people or their thoughts are. Obviously, a lot of people aren't sharing it either, nor are we. But I think it's also going to be interesting from y'all's perspective and the fan perspective on what's being said over the loudspeaker from the officials on who's using the numbering exception rule, which is the old rule, and then when they're not using the numbering exception rule, which is basically what's been implemented now. So spent a lot of time in the lab thinking about it, but we'll be prepared for anything that comes our way. There is a week 0 ahead of us, so we'll have a little bit of a jump. Our week 1 opponent also plays week 0, so we'll be able to see some things from everybody on that.
How about the 5-for-5 rule change? Does that change how you construct your depth chart a little more maybe than in the past because younger guys can get on the field a little bit faster now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is every year's that season, right? It's not about the next season, it's about right now. So I think the best thing about that for any young players that if they can add value now, they can play. Whereas before there was the talk of if they only played 4 and how that's going to work with the number of reps. Now, if somebody can add value to your roster, you can play them and it doesn't do anything negative to the athlete. Whereas before, that would have been the case. If a kid was in a situation where they were a backup or a third string and somebody ahead of them got hurt and it was later in the year and they could preserve a red shirt or not, we don't have to worry about that now. If they can help our football team, they can play.
Can you, Coach, can you talk a little bit about your philosophy as far as fielding the ball in the punting situation? Obviously, you don't want to create turnovers, but if all you do is fair catch all season, you're obviously not going to break any runs. So how do you sort of look or go about that fine line between maybe being a little aggressive with your kids and taking the opportunity to return the ball and just fair catching the ball?
Yeah, absolutely. The most important thing is the ball, right? So the possession. At the end of the play, we have to have possession. What I alluded to with the fair catch thing, we're not in control of that. So obviously if the opponent is not kicking the ball very far or they're kicking the ball with great hang time, that wasn't our opportunity. Going back to what I was saying though, when the opportunity presents itself, we're going to make sure we're in position. So whether that's being aggressive in our approach up front, being aggressive in our hold-up technique, mixing things up, all of those things play into that factor of where they are in relationship to the returner when he is catching the ball. But from a returner perspective, we want to catch all balls. I mean, we want to get to the ball and catch all balls. And then what plays off of that is somewhat dictated by the guy punting. If teams want to kick the ball really far, we're going to take advantage of that as well. So I think there is a fine line in what we're saying there. But again, the ball, and then when our opportunity comes, we will take advantage of it.
What was it's just obviously unique culture here under PJ as a newcomer. Was there kind of a welcome moment in terms of the row the boats motto where it kind of hit you like, oh shoot, this is a little bit different than maybe Storm was said?
Yeah, I would say that hit me on December 26th when I watched it from the opposite sideline. I'm just being real. Like I was on the other sideline and got to see it. I saw it on tape for a month as we prepared. I was obviously familiar with Coach Fleck and the program for a long time, but seeing it live from the opponent's sideline on December 26th, I saw it. And then obviously later down the road when I had the opportunity to come here, I had a 2-hour and 33-minute culture meeting where we learned about the culture and toured the facility. And I mean, I'm walking through the facility and I got to learn what's going on, right? Because I'm a part of the culture. So, but I saw it live. And it's very impressive, and now being a part of it from the inside out, it's remarkable what Coach Fleck and everybody underneath him have been able to do in the 10 years here, and I see it every day in our kids, and it's an absolute joy to coach these young men. They are incredible. To be able to make adjustments, the way we communicate, it is absolutely remarkable with our crazy communication and how these kids operate every day.
What was the conversation for bringing Brady Denberg back in, and how has he fit into the kicking competition?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was that he had the opportunity to come back. We met on it, had a conversation about it, and that was the one player on our roster that had the opportunity to. If you go back a few years, most rosters had a lot more specialists. For a long time there, I had 3 at every position at previous stops I had been at, and then when they made the roster cuts to get it down to 105, that changed. So we were sitting in a room with 6, having the ability to have another leg in the room, remarkable. A kid that's older with experience. But the neat thing for me is if you look at it from his perspective, and if you guys all go back to when you were finishing up college, some people knew what they were doing, some didn't. I mean, Brady's from Florida. Is he going to stay here? He's been up here. Is he going to go back home? Now all of a sudden he's in a situation where, hey, you can have an extra year of college and you get to play football. Like, what an awesome deal. I think if you guys all went back and put yourself in those shoes, it'd be like, wow, this is a great opportunity. So I know he's very grateful for the opportunity. I know there's still some things going on out there that are completely out of all of our control. We're going to take it day by day. He's fit right in. He knows some of the players that have been here before and gelled with the new ones. And the guys in the room, and obviously that's my responsibility, but the guys in the room understand from the day I bring them in, my job is to out-recruit them. And not in this situation, but like the day they're here, they need to get better. Every single day they need to develop, and that's my job, is to develop them as we go. So when we're looking at bringing in players down the road, they need to be better than the guys that we have here when we brought them in, because they have to develop and continue to grow. And that's obviously what I'm responsible for in that room. But he's gelled well, and I think the competition has really helped everyone grow.
With the age restriction in the 5-for-5, do you see Australia not being as big of a factor for getting punters over here, kickers?
I think they will still have a way to get them over here. They might be a little bit younger, and those guys would understand that. But that's been that's been something that's been, you know, very helpful in college football and successful for those guys coming over. But there is a lot of things going on with that. But yeah, I think they'll find a way to, whether it's with the age restriction or who knows. But yes, I think they'll still have those guys coming over.
Just a curiosity question. I read a recent ESPN report that was kind of trying to evaluate like cost per position, and mentioned something about a bunch of like top kickers getting together and kind of like sharing offers just to like jack their price up, basically. Have you experienced like a sharp kind of increase in, I guess, price or valuation on kickers? And is that something that you can speak to or respond to?
Yeah, I personally don't deal with that on that level. I think you've seen over the last few years, you've seen a spike in all of it at every position. And I think that holds true within the specialist realm. But that is something that's happening at every position all over the place. But yeah, I'm not aware of that particular situation. But yeah, I think it's happening at every position.